Hey friends, Dave here, and
And
Anne, my beautiful wife. We are starting this project with hopes of educating ourselves, but also helping to educate other people on a range of different topics. We've already had a few great suggestions from LGBTQ, different ranges of within that community, just to talking to people and getting some information out there to help people better understand that, to different types of rights, whether it's civil rights, what else? Voting rights, disability. There's a lot of really cool topics out there that we can discuss and bring other people in, because obviously we're not experts on everything, would never claim to be. So we're really excited to see how this evolves, and with your guys' input and just bringing other people in and creating a community of people that are trying to learn from each other and to create a shared experience where we can just at least get a perspective that is outside of our own to help us better understand in the ways that we can the experiences of other people in situations we may never be in. So have that opportunity to feel that and be a part of that is going to be pretty cool.
so why, what made you come up with the title of Sorry I'm Late But I'm Here Now?
Sorry I'm late, but I'm here now. I've been seeing like some stuff on there. I saw a picture of a guy at a Black Lives Matter rally, and he had a sign that said, "Hey, sorry I'm late. You know, I had to figure some stuff out, but I'm here now." You know, it was something along the lines of that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it just kind of caught me by, not by surprise, but just like caught my attention, I guess is what it was. And I just thought it was kind of a cool idea to think about, like being biased or not understanding someone's perspective or reality is not necessarily because you're choosing not to and you're being disrespectful. It's just that you are really incapable at times if you just don't have the information or the knowledge or the understanding of what they're actually going through, because you have never experienced it. And that's kind of part of getting outside of our bubbles a little bit, and to, I don't know, just be a more well-rounded, understanding, empathetic person. And I think that's super important in our country and the world, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we wanted to just kind of give a background of who we are, from us growing up as individuals, and then us coming together as a couple and a family and creating a family and leading us to where we are now. For the first episode, just so some of you that may not know us that well can kind of get a little bit of an idea of who we are, and maybe help you understand what has helped shape our beliefs and our worldview. Yeah. So we can start with me. So my name's Dave. I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Middle child.
Middle child, yeah, you wouldn't know.
Never.
So my parents, you know, they've been married for, they're 30 years ahead of us,
Yeah,
right?
so 44 years.
44 years now, which is great, you know, and, you know, having them always being there, you know, not having divorced part of my family, which I know is a part of a lot of different families, has helped shape my understanding of relationships a little bit. My family is relatively small on my side. My dad has one sibling, so I have one aunt, and I have two aunts and an uncle on my mom's side. And most of them were kind of spread out. My uncle lived in Missouri my whole life, so we got to see him once or twice a year at most growing up as kids. So most of my family was actually friends of my parents, I think, growing up, where I would call them uncle and aunt and stuff like that. So I kind of had a unofficial family, or fake family, if you want to call it. I don't know if other people do that, where you have uncles and aunts that aren't really that, you know, if that's an East Coast thing, I don't know. But so I had a lot of that. But in terms of my immediate family, it was pretty small. We didn't have a lot of family gatherings, did the typical holiday stuff like that. But it wasn't like a regular family dinner type thing in terms of other people outside of our family.
So the other day we were having a conversation about I was asking everybody like what their favorite food is that they remember from growing up, and like for me, it's my Aunt Connie's homemade mac and cheese. Oh, so good, and her homemade applesauce, and she would make it at Christmas. And Dave's like, oh, well, we always had KFC, and I was like, what? So even just that like perspective of, you know, we both grew up in the same state and everything, but it was just the traditions were very different. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, you're good. Yeah. The family systems
funny.
are different, so you know, our experiences of what family dinners look like are very, very different. So yeah. After I say a lot, so I apologize if that's something that bothers you guys. As I'm thinking here, we're kind of doing this on a whim and figuring it out as we go. So be patient with us. Yeah, I grew up in Northeast Philly area, and then we ended up moving rather quickly. We moved in with a grandmother, my dad's mom, so on my dad's side, and moved to Delaware County.
Delco.
So we moved there, lived there until basically I went to college at Westchester University. Moving on through that, I've worked since then tons of different kinds of jobs, which I think has helped me kind of understand where other people are and be empathetic in different situations I might be in. I worked in the hotel business, restaurant business, for U.S. Airways, an airline. I sold mortgages for a little while back when it was a really big deal right before the crash, so that was kind of tough. Educator, I've been teaching ever since I was in college, and officially have been teaching for over 10 years now as an actual classroom teacher, from 8 years of special ed and 2 years of being music teachers most recently, full-time. But I've been teaching percussion and helping out different ensembles and things for 20 years or so. So I've definitely been teaching and seeing wide ranges of people and different backgrounds and socioeconomic areas, and it's just been a pretty cool experience being able to be in all those different positions up until now. Education-wise, I got my undergraduate at Westchester University. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was kind of bouncing around a little bit. I did want to be a music teacher from the beginning, was my goal. It just took me kind of a long time to get there. We ended up moving to, kind of jumping ahead to both of us, but we moved to Phoenix for a job for me to start teaching and earn my master's at the same time. So I did go to ASU, got my master's in education with an emphasis on special ed. And from there, I did some teaching at ASU, some adjunct teaching for behavioral management and things like that, because of the special ed setting I was in was kids with emotional disabilities. So again, that's a whole nother experience and story for another time. But doing that, I continued to get my education. It just seemed like the next step, and I just kind of did it. So I went to Grand Canyon University for my doctorate, which I have not completed. So I am ABD, which means all but dissertation. So I went through all the coursework, and I have a third to a half of a dissertation completed. And for other reasons we'll probably get into, that I decided that I need to pause on that, and that was a few years ago now, and I haven't really kind of worked on that since. So as of right now, I've have the education portion of it without the degree and the dissertation, which is definitely a difficult thing. So if you've done that, kudos to you. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I was going to talk about for me. What about you, Anne? What's your background? Tell us your life story.
All right, so I was born in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania, so northeast Pennsylvania. It was beautiful there. I loved growing up there. I had lived in the same house my whole life until I went away to college my freshman year. So I had just that consistency of that place to live, same house, same bus stop, same everything the whole time. Music was always a really big part of my life growing up. My parents did get divorced when I was 15, right before I turned 16. So that was interesting. And then when I went to college, my freshman year, I went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was too far away from home. So I transferred to Westchester University where I met him, and that was better because it was only 2 hours away from home as opposed to the 5 hours away from home. And, you know, fast forward, we moved across the country, but that's another story. So yeah, I went to Westchester for a little bit, and then I stopped going because, you know, we had moved out and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going for music ed. And so I was like, all right, Dave's almost done with his degree, so I'll take a break. So I took a break, and then I went back to school probably when Logan was 3, maybe 4. I started taking a class at a time, and I ended up finally getting my bachelor's degree in 2017. So I was a little late. I was supposed to graduate in 2005. Took me an extra 12 years, but I was really proud of myself for continuing to get my education, even though I could have easily just been like, no, it's okay. But it was something I really wanted to do. It was a big goal that I had, was to get my degree. So I was really proud of myself for seeing it through. And it was really cool because 2017 was a really big year for our family. And my kids got to watch me get my degree and like walk across
cool
the
experience.
stage and get my degree. So that's something I'm really proud of myself for, was doing that. My
1 second. If
Yeah.
you guys hear weird sounds, our dog is literally by our feet and
and he's snoring.
So if you hear weird grumbling noises or see me like kicking my foot trying to wake the dog up, sorry. So it's not a weird bodily function. It's our dog. Go ahead.
So I got my undergraduate degree just in liberal studies, and then I started teaching at an elementary school here in Buckeye, teaching music. And so I went back for my post-bac teaching certificate in music education. So I was teaching while I was getting certified, and I just finished that in December. And so now I am a fully certified K-12 music teacher in Arizona. So it just, again, took me a lot longer to get where I started when I was 18. So that's okay. Everybody has a different path, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, growing up, I think we both kind of glossed over this. We both come from working class families. Neither of us had like a ton of money growing up. So that kind of influenced who we grew up to be.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so as far as the two of us now, we can kind of meld our stories together. Now, obviously, we glossed over a lot in that. Also, I forgot to mention, my dad did pass away from cancer in 2006. So I still have my mom, but my dad did pass away from cancer shortly after Dave and I got married. So, yeah. We met when I was 19 and he was 20, studying music at Westchester. We got married in May of 2006, so we've been married for 14 years. We have our 12-year-old, Logan. And then we went through a pretty rough patch after we had Logan. We had 3 ectopic pregnancies. So if you don't know what that is, it's where the pregnancy gets stuck in the fallopian tube. The first time they repaired the one tube, the second time it got caught on the same side and it was unable to be repaired. The third time was on the other side and it was unable to be repaired. Each time my tubes ruptured and I was bleeding internally and I was like hours away from dying. It was pretty horrible. But at that point we weren't able to have our own children naturally. And then we went through 3 failed rounds of IVF, which was again pretty big heartbreak, and it, you know, drained our finances pretty good.
Yeah. So it was emotionally, physically, and financially draining.
Yeah, it was pretty hard.
It reached every facet of your being, I think, where it could drain you and excite you all at the same time at moments. But yeah.
Yeah, and that was after we moved to Arizona in 2010. So we've been here for a decade now in Arizona. After that went through, we started fostering, and we'll get into this more. This is definitely topics that we want to talk about on here, because I think sometimes infertility and fostering and things are kind of taboo subjects to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of. So I know that that's on my heart a lot to be able to talk about with you guys at a later date. So we had fostered for 4 years, and we had 11 foster children total, so 9 that had not lived with us. And then our 10th and our 11th placement were our little boys that we adopted also in 2017. So again, it was a big year. I graduated, we adopted our little boys, and we bought our house all in that year. And I went back to work full time. So it was
a lot of change and excitement and everything.
Yeah.
It was reached the gamut of emotions and everything. So it was another time.
Yep. And so we adopted our 2 little boys. So we have Aiden is now 8 and Mason is 6. He'll be 7 in the fall. Aiden has Down syndrome and is hard of hearing, so we are special needs parents. And just adopting from foster care and the trauma that these babies go through adds a whole nother level to everything. And then, Down syndrome and hard of hearing is another level of learning for us. And I feel like we are always trying to seek out information and learn and figure out how to be the best parents for our 3 boys that we can.
And just to, along the way with all this, we've had a lot of friends and family, church, a lot of different things that were there for us to help us out through, especially when we first moved out here. All of our friends and family were back east. My parents did move out here shortly after we did.
Year and a half after
and then
we did.
Anne's mom just moved out here this past year, which is pretty cool. But for a while, our oikos, if you will, or our group of friends was really just people we started to meet out here and really helped us through those in different points of our life and where we were. And some of those friends have grown apart and moved on. But others, so with life changes, there's like a flow of friendship and roles within your lives and stuff like that. So, it's just different experiences, people we've met out here. I think we're thankful for all of that too, to think of all the things that we've been through in these 10 years of being out here, through the joys and the heartache. We were able to have people to help guide us through it or just walk with us through it, and not everybody has that. So, just an experience. If you need that, trying to find those things and reaching out to people, that's definitely something to help through whatever craziness you might be going through too. So.
Yeah, for sure. Something I totally forgot to mention is I have an older sister, Amy, and I have a little brother who just graduated high school the other day. So he's 19 years younger than me. So my sister's 2 years older than me. My brother's 19 years younger than me.
True.
So I totally forgot that in my introduction about myself. He talked about his siblings, but I forgot. And we each have some nieces and nephews on both sides of our family, which is awesome. We love them to pieces. Okay, so the last thing we want to talk about, this video is long, so if you're still watching, thanks for keeping it. Why we wanted to do this, what our main purpose was, is just, there is so much going on in the world right now, and it's really hard to know what can we do to help. What can we do, especially right now we're quarantined in our house, and I know for me, I thrive on getting to spend time with people, and so not having that time together, it's been really hard. So what can we do to help from our house to try and have a bigger impact on more than just each other? So we're thinking let's have open, honest, respectful discussions about important topics that matter. It's so important to keep learning and to keep an open mind and to just open yourself up to other people's point of views and other people's experiences, because there's no way that you can continue to learn and to grow if you keep those blinders on that no, this is only the way it is because this is the only way I see it. So I think that was really important for us to just maybe be facilitators for some of those conversations and reach out to people we know and people we don't know to try and get their stories to share and talk about. We want to continue to learn, and we want to continue to grow, and we want to continue to make this world a place where we're happy to raise our children and know that we did everything that we could to make it a safe, loving, and caring environment for them.
Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of things are politicized, and if you know us personally, you know that we are, our personal views, we're very progressive in terms of what our beliefs are politically. You know, we believe in equal rights and things like that. That being said, you know, I've been doing a lot of like soul searching and understanding of myself, and realizing things I've done in my past or said certain things and give microaggressions and things like that that I didn't mean anything by it, you know, but without understanding the biases that I was carrying and things like that that are still hurtful, you know, whether I meant it to be or not. The perception is what reality is. I think being okay with starting to think and reframing things of like, just because that's how it's always been doesn't mean it's how it has to be, you know, and things like that. And just being okay with being wrong in your life and admitting that you were wrong, that's okay. Like that's how we grow. You know, if you as an individual struggle with that, that's okay. You know, everyone does to an extent, you know, and I think I do, you know, and really try not to beat yourself up too much about it, and really just come to understanding with it. You know, that's where I was at a certain point in my life with a certain information I was given or a way I was raised, or I just never experienced something before, so I just didn't really understand it. So I thought saying something was okay or doing something was okay, and not really understanding how that could affect other people and different things like that. So just really the whole idea is to help us be better people and understanding each other. We don't always have to agree that something is moral or immoral or necessarily, but being able to understand where someone is coming from is kind of half the battle, where we can meet in the middle. And I think that's a really important place to be, because we are so polarized right now. And I think more than I've ever seen, I think everyone would agree with that it's either this is it or not. You know, there's no gray area. A lot of times it's like you believe this, and that's how it is, you know. And I think just challenging yourself, and I always enjoyed playing devil's advocate, because I think that also helped shape me, because then I was like, well, what about from this point of view, right? And I started thinking about things in those ways, and I think that's helped shape me a little bit to where I am and how I like to challenge certain ideas and concepts, because just because it's the way it was doesn't mean it's how it has to be, or I just didn't have the information, or you don't have the information. So I'm just excited to really get into a lot of these different topics that you guys have brought up and that we've been thinking about, that we would like to share and communicate with people and get some more information. So just so we can all be more informed and, you know, just understand people a little bit better, you know?
I agree.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on the first episode, guys. We're really excited to kind of do this project with you guys. So definitely communicate with us, message us with any ideas or thoughts you might have. I think that's it. So first episode, sorry I'm late, but I'm here now, and hope you guys are here now and moving forward. Thanks.